I am honestly very, very impressed with the student body at CEU. In the talk yesterday, the questions were engaged and concerned, and then today, there were 5 really good business ideas. Teaching business to journalists used to be an evil, but now it's a necessity.
Talking about protecting, but also about collaborating, where do you set the limit, or how can you legally make profit?
Now we have to update the notion of copyright, because it is free and easy to make a digital copy of things. Part of the problem is we only value one thing. That's the making of the product. There's other value that comes along. For instance, making an audience. Now the next idea here, which you raise, is the idea of collaboration. You know, what if you are inspired by somebody else, you write a song, somebody else comes along and does a remix of that song, someone else comes along and puts it in a movie. There's a string of value that was created around that. This was actually the topic of a big project at the World Economic Forum. The time has come to update the notion of copyright.
You were talking about this kind of future or potential ebook ecosystem in which one book quoted another book or another source, that could inspire people to think on other things, but as the way I personally see it, maybe it can just cause stagnation.
You're right. If we just copy each other, then we're not really adding value. And we see that in news media all the time, where somebody does a story and then we all feel we have to have our own version of the story, and all we do is rewrite that story and take the essence of it, and we don't really add value. We use precious resources. So that's not so good. However, you look at the idea of the book, it has its limitations. The book can't be updated. You can't link right in the middle of it. You can't have a discussion around it very easily. So all I really want to argue is that we should also consider rethinking the form of the book now that we can.
You were saying that we have actually no idea of what the internet is going to become. Do you think, in a personal basis, that it is taking the right path?
Don't know. The thing about any tool is it can be used for good or bad by good or bad people. In the US, Occupy Wall Street, and here in Spain, the Indignados, they used Twitter and the Arab Spring as well. It opened up democracy to a larger discussion. However, it turns out that, of course, it's much harder to build something than to tear it down. And if we look at American politics, I'm afraid to say, and who thought the revolution would be tweeted? But who thought the revolution would be tweeted by Donald Trump? So he has used the power of social media to build this campaign, and we've let him do it. This is a huge problem, but it's a demonstration about how these tools can be used to open up democracy and potentially also to ruin democracy.
They are selling something special for people to actually be interested into giving money. As coming from America, that you have a different culture, I think more positive about this. Do you have any advice or any thought on this?
I'm not terribly optimistic about paywalls, because in journalism, the value of the journalism is information. And in a free society, information, once it's known, can be known by anybody. And you can't restrict what someone knows. Copyright only restricts the treatment of information, not the information itself. However, I think that there are ways to get revenue from our public. And we have to understand the motives the public might have to do that. However, I think we also see right here in Madrid an important example of another model of payment, which is El Diario. And they're not paying for access to it, they're paying to support it, to give it to the nation, because they're saying this is important, journalism matters. That's really important. That's a great model. There are models where the public will pay. But we have to ask, what are they really paying for? They're not necessarily paying for our old business model supported on copyright of charging for content. We have to really investigate these motives to understand how to get consumer revenue. Un saludo para Onteola.